Reopening Dane County. We are 2 hours away now from the start of Phase 1. What it will look like today and what needs to happen to reach Phase 2.
Plus, new developments after a house explosion in Janesville sent 2 people to the hospital. We're hearing from neighbors who rescued them.
This is News 3 Now this morning.
806 Hawthorne, 806 Hawthorne. 1 or 2 callers are saying they heard some sort of explosion, possibly occupied. It might be a gas leak removing the victim.
And we start with that update to breaking news this morning. Within the last few minutes here, we've learned that this home behind me in Janesville is a total loss. Now, this happened in a neighborhood on Hawthorne Avenue overnight, just west of Milton Avenue. Smoke is still burning this morning. You can see that behind me, and crews are still on the scene. As you just heard from dispatchers there, emergency crews were first called to the scene around 9:15 last night after hearing reports of a house exploding. In just the last few minutes, we've learned from Janesville fire officials that the explosion was due to a natural gas leak and a lit cigarette. One resident in the duplex reported smelling gas before the other resident lit the cigarette. Those 2 people were sent to the hospital. News 3 Now was first on the scene, and we spoke with some neighbors who risked their lives to save the residents of this home.
We thought a door slammed. Came outside, heard a bunch of yelling, so we all started running towards where we heard people yelling for help, and you could see glass and debris all over the yard. You could smell gas when you ran up to the house.
I was kind of freaked out, to tell you the truth. I was just seeing I was praying and hoping nobody was in the house. And then we sat there, and all of a sudden, she must have just came from like unconscious. She waved, and I was just looking where we were talking, and then I had to go in there and go grab her. We seen her waving, so we went to go grab her.
One of the people rescued is being treated for minor injuries this morning. The other is said to be in serious condition. We're also told that a dog was inside the home at the time and is being treated for serious burns right now. Back out here live this morning, you can see the smoke still going behind me. This was a duplex. The left side of this duplex was destroyed. The other half of it actually intact yet this morning. We're told that the tenant of that duplex is staying with family. We're working to learn more about the latest conditions on these victims, and we'll bring you any updates to this breaking news as soon as we get it. Chris?
Josh Pryor live in Janesville. Thanks, Josh. On to our other top story of the morning. Just about 2 hours away now from Dane County reopening into Phase 1. Phase 1 effective at 8 o'clock. At that time, all businesses will be allowed to reopen at 25% capacity. That includes restaurants, gyms, salons, and retail shops. They'll all be required to follow public health requirements and physical distancing. We'll stay at Phase 1 for at least 14 days because that's the amount of time it could take to develop symptoms once anyone's exposed to the virus. After that, in order to move into Phase 2, we need to meet more than half of these metrics. It's a lot to take in. Also, the number of positive tests and cases per day can't be in red. The next phase would open up schools and summer programs, as well as offices, stores, and restaurants to 50% capacity. 14 new COVID cases have been confirmed in Dane County since Sunday afternoon. That's part of the 360 new cases of COVID-19 confirmed in the state over the last 24 hours. Since the outbreak, the total number of cases is now more than 15,000 across the state. Of those, just about 60% of patients have fully recovered. 514 people have died from the virus here, 26 of those deaths in Dane County. One expert is now warning that we could see cases of the coronavirus continue here in the U.S. for the next 3 years. Lori Garrett is with the Council on Foreign Relations. She says the virus will be like brush fires that keep popping up sporadically across the country. To counter this, she says we need to be more realistic with testing by using effective targeting. 6:03 right now, Hattie McLean, and with your first warn weather. Hey, Hattie.
Mother Nature brought in the heat and humidity.
There you go. Thanks, Hattie.
You're welcome.
Well, it was tough for a lot of people to stay in for the unofficial start of summer. Take a look at this. Thousands of people across the country ignoring social distancing. For many Americans, it was their first chance this year to get out and hit the beach. This is what it looked like in Hilton Head, South Carolina. One woman said that she was trying her best to follow health safety guidelines.
We try to distance ourselves enough to not have to wear them on the beach, but still people would still come over and you kind of had to, turn away from them.
From California to New York, police were seen breaking up large gatherings and enforcing new local rules. Some California beaches didn't allow people to sunbathe or sit on the beach. And in New York, people had to wear masks and socially distance. Well, people in Milwaukee, meantime, they were a little better with social distancing. Most everyone on the beach said that they noticed people keeping at least 6 feet of space from each other, though some just kept their distance from the beach itself and just enjoyed the view. COVID-19 caused a change of plans for Madison's annual Memorial Day ceremonies. Instead of holding events at the Capitol this year, organizers held brief ceremonies at Soldiers Rest and Union Rest at Forest Hill Cemetery yesterday. The first ceremony consisted of an opening prayer, military honors with a firing squad, and the playing of taps, as well as a closing prayer.
With the firing squad and the taps, which taps is real hard on a lot of people, including myself, because of the memories. But sometimes sad memories are good memories. They bring back what you're really thinking about the people, the good things.
Those in attendance did wear masks and were spread out across the lawn. The Madison Veterans Council plans to return to the state capitol for Veterans Day. Without big events and memorials, some honored fallen members of the military from their own homes for Memorial Day.
I think today maybe it takes on a little more significance just because of all the people who've died in the last 3 months from this pandemic.
Now, Michael Hackett there and his son Eric are both avid trumpet players in Sun Prairie. And at 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon, they stood in their driveway and played taps. It's part of a nationwide movement of remembrance for fallen servicemen and women and those who have died from COVID-19, as well as those on the front lines battling the epidemic. We're bringing you updates every 10 minutes this morning about a house explosion in Janesville. Coming up, Josh Spreiter live from the scene. Plus, if you're tight on money these days because of the pandemic, we're going to tell you how you can get in on some programs to postpone your bills like your credit card or even your mortgage. That's when News 3 Now this morning returns. Stay with us.
Welcome back at 6:12 this morning. We're following new developments to breaking news overnight of a house explosion in Janesville. Take a look at the scene behind me right now. 2 people are recovering at a home right now, or at a hospital in Janesville, after this home exploded just north of downtown. As you can see, half of this duplex along Hawthorne Avenue is gone and debris is scattered all over this morning. Fire officials say the duplex is a total loss. The person who lives on the other side of the duplex wasn't hurt and is staying with family this morning. The Janesville Fire Department was on scene all night looking for hot spots and will be back out here early this morning to continue their investigation, but say the explosion was caused by a lit cigarette and a gas leak. We'll have updates throughout the morning as we get them.
Josh Spreiter live in Janesville. Thanks, Josh. Brazil is surpassing the U.S. with the highest number of daily coronavirus deaths. The country's health ministry says they've had more than 800 deaths in the past 24 hours. That's 200 more than we had here in the U.S. Brazil is currently home to the second worst outbreak in the world with nearly 375,000 cases, significantly behind the U.S., which leads the world with more than 1.6 million cases. In the U.S., the virus has killed nearly 100,000 people so far. In Brazil, more than 23,000 have died. After rechecking their coronavirus data, Spain is lowering its death total. The country's health emergency coordinator says they found that some deaths were counted more than once. The total number of deaths has now been lowered by nearly 2,000. Other miscounted deaths included those who died of non-COVID related issues. The total number of recorded cases also dropped by a few hundred. A medical group in Japan is warning parents this morning about the hazards of masks for young children. They say children under the age of 2 should not wear masks as they may make breathing more difficult, as well as increase the risk of choking. Though masks are recommended to prevent the spread of the coronavirus, according to Reuters, there are very few serious cases among children. It's for that reason, the increased risk, that the Japan Pediatric Association is issuing the recommendation. Denmark is moving forward with plans to make testing available for everyone. Every citizen there will be able to make an appointment via an app and head to the nearest testing facility. The average wait time to get those tests, Denmark's health ministry says, is less than a day. They have a population of less than 6 million. Denmark says it's easy. It easily has the capacity to test anyone who wants one. The health ministry says the broad testing scheme is part of a larger push to gradually reopen the country after beating back the virus. In Wuhan, China, the original epicenter of the pandemic, officials say more than 6 million of the 10 million residents have now been tested. It's It's part of an extraordinary push over the past week or so involving more than 200 mobile screening centers to try and contain a potential new outbreak. After a 76-day lockdown earlier this year, the mass testing was ordered after a small number of new asymptomatic cases were discovered. The Asian stock market looking up this morning following its worst day in 5 years Friday. Japan's Prime Minister says that they're seeing a boost following the country's lifted state of emergency and newly announced increases to their stimulus package. Investors in Hong Kong and China say reopenings across the globe are also helping. After being closed for 2 months, the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange will reopen today. In just a couple of hours, traders are going to be wearing masks. They'll have to stand on foot-printed stickers to help enforce social distancing. And they won't be allowed to take public transportation, and they will have their temperature checked at the door. Some 90% of Americans are receiving a stimulus check from the government, but for many, it won't be enough to get them through this crisis, and they'll still have to prioritize which bills get paid and which don't. Consumer Reports has some advice this morning on how to make that money last a little longer.
Manuela Martinez was recently laid off and plans to file for unemployment. She'll join the 26 million other Americans who filed for unemployment in the last 5 weeks.
What went through my mind when I got laid off was like, how am I supposed to pay my electricity bill? How am I supposed to pay my rent? While also thinking about how am I going to set food on the table?
But Manuela is taking steps that can help.
So I reached out to some of my credit card companies and I've requested them to stop interest rates. They've actually taken ownership to say, listen, you don't have to pay anything for the next 3 months, some of them 2 months.
It's important to get a handle on how much cash you have coming in and how much needs to go out.
Normally, you might have to focus on paying down your high interest rate debts first, but these really aren't normal times. So you might have to focus instead on essentials such as rent or utilities or pharmacy bills.
For people who've suffered a financial hardship due to the coronavirus pandemic, many banks are deferring credit card payments like Manuela's and waiving fees for a period of time.
If you get a hardship accommodation, make sure that your payments are reported as current on your credit report rather than delinquent, so it won't impact your FICO score.
You may have heard that the CARES Act may offer relief from mortgage payments, but the law's passage doesn't mean you can simply ignore your mortgage bill.
The law actually doesn't kick in automatically. You have to contact your servicer, and it doesn't say how you'll be asked to pay up afterwards. So your servicer should contact you about a month before the time is up to offer you a realistic payment plan.
The law applies only to federally backed mortgages. You can find out if this is an option for you by speaking to your mortgage servicers. For News 3 Now, this is Leah Lynchide.
Consumer Reports says the most important thing to do if you're concerned about missing a payment to any creditor is to reach out with questions before you can't pay your bill. That will give you some time to consider all of your options. 6:18 right now, checking in with Hattie McLean. Artist is putting some of his downtime to good use, making sure that kids, even adults, can keep their creative juices flowing while at home. Ryan Ebert is from Fort Atkinson. He created a series of Fort Atkinson-themed coloring pages. They feature local events, many of which have been canceled because of the coronavirus, as well as area landmarks. In addition, Ebert's making some cut-out wooden fish and dinosaurs that can be painted and then donated it all to the local library to be distributed for free.
I'd say the cutouts I donated to the library took me at least a solid day of cutting them out and sanding them down a little bit. The coloring pages probably took me about a week worth of drawing on my Wacom tablet, making digital illustrations to make those out.
Well, he says in total about 60 wooden cutouts have been donated to the library and more than 150 coloring pages, all of which are now available for curbside pickup. Open for business. Dane County launches phase 1 of its reopening plan today. We'll tell you what to expect at the store or gym coming up after the break.
Also ahead at 6:30, we'll have the new developments of a house explosion in Janesville. We're learning more about the cause and the conditions of the victims involved when News 3 Now This Morning continues. Stay with us.
Okay, we're back, and we've been asking you to share your morning with us. Biff sent in this picture today. Good looking sunrise. Nice, well done. Thanks for sharing, Biff. So what does your morning look like? We want to see it. Take a picture, post it on the Channel 3000 Facebook page or on Twitter. Make sure to use the hashtag MyNews3Morning, and we'll share our favorites right here on News 3 Now This Morning.
All right, well, graduating from college is a big deal, but it's an even bigger deal for one student in California. That's because he's only 13 years old.
13, can you believe it? There he is, Jack Rico. He's now the youngest grad of Fullerton College. He has count them, four associate's degrees under his belt. He's not stopping there, though, as you may imagine. He is headed to the University of Nevada on a full scholarship to get a BS in history. Jack started college when he was 11. He got all four of those associate's degrees in just 2 years. You got kids this age.
I do. They are not anywhere.
They got to step it up.
I feel like such a failure. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get him to stop playing Minecraft for a couple hours.
Yeah, that's hard enough, right?
Yeah, I know. All right, well, let's get to your weather update for today. We have a pretty